Hello from Heartland, Vermont, and welcome to this discussion of supporting tech entrepreneurship in rural America. Today, we will discuss how best to offer support to startup development efforts that may be happening in your region. I'm Rose Veland, the Entrepreneurship Program Specialist here at Rural Innovation Strategies, Inc., or RISI. I work closely with rural community leaders as they plan and execute strategies to create more local tech startups and support systems for tech entrepreneurs in rural communities. I have experience managing federally funded commercialization accelerator programs in the US and abroad, including the National Science Foundation and the National Institutes of Health's I-Corps programs. I prepared this content with my colleague Molly Pyle, our entrepreneurial ecosystem development lead, who has led tech startup and entrepreneurship programs in Silicon Valley, as well as with MIT and the US State Department. Together, we support leaders in rural communities to build and maintain programs, resources, and opportunities for their local aspiring and current tech entrepreneurs. A quick note before we begin that the content of this recording was prepared by RISI as a part of a cooperative agreement with the EDA's Research and National Technical Assistance Program, and this content does not necessarily reflect the views of the US Economic Development Administration or the US Department of Commerce. We will begin today with a quick overview of tech entrepreneurship and the role it plays in tech-based economic development. We'll move into an overview of the activities, assets, and support mechanisms critical to this work through a framework of phases of development, and follow that up with actionable ways to apply this in your region's startup communities. Note there is an appendix slide to this presentation linking to all of the communities, startups, and programs we will mention, which will be made available to you. So let's kick things off. Based on RISI's experiences working with rural communities across the country, we've developed a model that highlights the foundational elements, necessary infrastructure, and direct drivers to support tech-based economic development. Foundational elements such as housing, quality K-12 education, and necessary infrastructure elements such as broadband and co-working spaces are vital for communities to be prepared for this work. Given these elements and infrastructure are in place, we've learned that the keys to local wealth creation and increasing high-paying tech jobs through the digital economy are the following 5 drivers. Starting with scalable tech entrepreneurship support and incubation, our point of discussion today. Having fast-growing startups rooted in a rural community, as opposed to focusing on attracting companies from other jurisdictions or retaining existing companies, although these can be important initial steps in developing a startup community, creates a local economy able to continuously foster new companies. Successful startups emerging in these local economies accelerate the economic development of a community as they create a positive feedback loop of founders, employees, and investors gaining practical knowledge for building high-impact businesses, along with the wealth and employment generation opportunities that result from success. In addition to this money and experience, their success inspires the broader community and future generations of entrepreneurs through living examples of what is possible. There aren't many support structures out there to help build scalable tech startups and support tech entrepreneurs in rural America. We found that focused support on this driver leads to the creation of tech startups that bring more innovation, jobs, and ultimately wealth and ownership to a local community. We won't dwell on the other vital drivers today, but to quickly run through. Access to capital provides financial support to startups and emerging companies from sources such as angel investor networks and the use of public funds to leverage private investment funds. Access to digital jobs is often created through startups with new demand for tech workers. Relatedly, digital workforce development ensures the availability of a technically skilled workforce, which can involve encouraging more students to enter STEM fields, internship programs, and providing technical training for workers in existing companies. And underpinning all of these drivers is the need to build a strong, inclusive tech culture and community through programming that shifts mental models about what's possible and encourages people from diverse backgrounds to participate in the digital economy. This could include activities like tech meetups, regular featuring of diverse tech entrepreneurs in the local news, or more highly visible tech-focused events designed to attract participation from participants in the region. This driver is a critical factor in all of the others and is essential to be centered when approaching program design and community engagement. To further clarify the focus on scalable tech entrepreneurs, we should first differentiate two types of entrepreneurship that can often be talked about interchangeably, but are really different in terms of the strategies that can help facilitate them and the outcomes they yield. Local small businesses are essential to any economy and should be valued as such. In this definition, small business owners may want to grow their businesses, but they aren't focused on replacing or disrupting a large company in an existing market. And typically their size doesn't lend itself to scaling far beyond their local area or globally, nor do they attract venture capital. They grow their businesses via profits or traditional bank financing, and many are sole proprietorships or hire a small number of people. On the other hand, a scalable tech entrepreneur searches for a repeatable business model they can then turn into a high-growth, profitable company. They do this by entering a large market, which requires external risk capital to build and scale. An entrepreneur's goal for their tech startup is often an exit or acquisition, building some kind of intellectual property that is valuable. With the rise in popularity and efficacy of distributed teams and remote work, it is easier than ever for scalable tech startups to be built and scaled outside of metropolitan areas. Here's an example. Marcus lives in Wilson, North Carolina, and has spent years working in the automotive industry, dealing directly with customers and processing problems at dealerships. He realized that he needed software to fix the problems that continued to arise between customer engagement and processes in the repair shop. Since Marcus is not a software developer, he posted about the idea on Facebook, and a previous client of his reached out to help him build the software. In 2018, Marcus began his project, and in March of 2020, after they had a model of the product and piloted it for a while in the auto shop Marcus worked in, Marcus had other dealers call him to use the software in their workshops. At this point, he recognized the potential of his innovation and applied to Wilson, North Carolina's Riot Accelerator program, offered at the Gig East Exchange co-working space. Marcus and his co-founder, that previous client who helped him build the software, left their jobs to pursue Shift Auto full-time. The differences between an auto repair business and a company that sells software to auto shops is clear. The ability to create products that are no touch and power connections between potentially limitless numbers of people or limitless transactions is what makes it scalable and what makes this business model and use of technology so effective. Building this kind of tech, in this case a software product, requires a wide and advanced range of skill sets, which brings the demand for specialized talent. It's important to note we also focus on this because of the continued rise of automation. Focusing on creating tech startups helps to ensure that rural places in an age of accelerating automation have some ownership of that production and aren't left behind. We've seen many other examples of these kinds of scalable tech startups being built in and putting down permanent roots in our network of rural communities. To name just a few, Pluralsight, a data skill building and development process flow service in Durango, Colorado, and Yoast Labs, a VR hardware and software development company in Portsmouth, Ohio. So while acknowledging that the scalable tech entrepreneur's road to success is never linear, we've created a model that outlines the phases of development for a region's entrepreneurship support capacity. This tool for rural community leaders helps them provide targeted efforts at every stage of a tech entrepreneur's journey. Today, we will introduce the phases of development and then explore the specific programs and services a community can provide to advance through these phases. Note, as we are looking at these examples, that communities need strong leadership and coordination to advance through, including types of work that aren't often funded as part of the community leader's role. The most important thing to keep in mind is that this sequence of programming and activities are about the entrepreneur and their journey. Writing really strong, compelling offerings at the early stages builds a better pipeline. We've provided some examples of these as we've seen them in our Rural Innovation Network communities along this framework. When a community is in phase 0, most if not all of their programs focus on support for local small businesses. Note there are applicable federal and state grants to support Main Street or downtown development-oriented projects, but most of these are outside of EDA, although there might be an opportunity to connect with an EDA revolving loan fund. EDA programs cannot directly award money to entrepreneurs and startups. Mentioning prizes as a use of funds could automatically disqualify an otherwise strong application. Other agencies, such as the Small Business Administration, the Treasury, and Housing and Urban Development, can provide this direct financial support. Relevant assets at phase 0 can include a chamber focused on entrepreneurship or an active small business development council. Programming can include business support, a buy local program, training workshops, or pitch competitions for Main Street businesses. With all of these activities occurring, it becomes clear the community recognizes the potential value of increasing entrepreneurship, and the challenge is around leveraging that to create a path for scalable tech entrepreneurship as an option for locals to pursue, in addition to small business entrepreneurship. Here are two examples from the Rural Innovation Network for Phase 0 programs. First, the Co-Starters cohort in Pikeville, Kentucky, which was a cohort for aspiring women entrepreneurs throughout Appalachia, facilitated by 4 women entrepreneurs. And second, Entrepreneurship in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, which provides lean startup support for local innovators and entrepreneurs with a focus on BIPOC founders. Moving to Phase 1, the community leaders are thinking more about the concept of scalable tech entrepreneurship, potentially including it in their SEDS, in the local economic development strategy, and there should be a designated organization and brand that has resources focused on scalable tech entrepreneurship, allowing for local aspiring and current startup founders to navigate the programs, events, and services offered with ease. Key assets of Phase 1 include access to a technically skilled workforce, active media outlets, and a regional source to connect entrepreneurs with commercializable ideas. The community may offer tech entrepreneurship meetups in a local co-working or innovation space. Community members can attend talks by successful entrepreneurs to get inspired, sign up for ideation workshops or boot camps to work on their ideas, or join an event like a hackathon to try to solve a problem with tech and possibly lead to the creation of new startups. Some Phase 1 examples from the RIN include the Talk Series in Red Wing, Minnesota, for which they put on speaking events with successful local tech entrepreneurs to emphasize what is possible in rural, as well as the Startup Ada Boot Camp in Ada, Oklahoma, which is a boot camp teaching small business owners and aspiring tech entrepreneurs startup education basics. Another Phase 1 example comes from Shawnee State in Portsmouth, Ohio, where the Quicker Innovation Hub is amplifying the success stories of entrepreneurs in recovery from substance use disorder, which they faced unique challenges in dealing with as rural Americans. The Quicker Innovation Hub team hosted a panel of community leaders, advocates, and innovators to talk about the challenges and opportunities they faced in their entrepreneurial journey through recovery as part of their Entrepreneurial Journey speaker series. Phase 2 is when a community is equipped to support the launch of tech entrepreneurship and tech startups. There's an incubator program that is focused on educating founders and helping create scalable tech startups from ideation to launch, and the talent and other operational resources they need in place locally. At this stage, you could also expect to see an active investor community with examples of investment in local scalable tech startups. There's an accelerator program that helps to prepare local tech founders for investment, and an active mentor network that offers specialized support and connections for startups. A Phase 2 community is really driving the volume and growth of local scalable tech startups. Phase 2 examples include North Iowa's partnership with the MIT Venture Mentoring Program, which trains aspiring mentors in North Iowa to grow the local mentor network, and Startup Shenandoah Valley in Shenandoah Valley, Virginia, a hybrid program combining accelerator and incubator models to meet the needs of startups in the region. There are many examples of Phase 2 programs in the RIN today, including the Actuator Accelerator in Springfield, Vermont, the RIDE Accelerator we mentioned earlier in Wilson, North Carolina, and the HealthSpark Digital Health Accelerator in Traverse City, Michigan. Finally, at Phase 3, the growth stage, a community has fully enabled entrepreneurs to grow their tech startups, with many local ventures actively scaling. At this stage, the community should have the ability to provide funding and support for the sustainability and growth of startups, offering introductions to investors and potential customers, and supporting ventures in their expansion and sustainability. Investor networks, funds, and mentors have more formalized relationships with the community, and there's a full pipeline of programs to support entrepreneurs from early stages through investment. Phase 3 examples from the RIN include First 50K in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, now scaled out to Paducah, Kentucky as well, which is a grant-based incentive program for startups to relocate to the community, providing capital and local connections. Also, the Northern Michigan Angels in Traverse City are a great example. An angel network of local investors with the mission of creating a positive impact on the economy and increasing quality of life in Michigan by investing in local scalable companies. Funds supporting phase 3 communities also include the SCAPE Investor Fund in Durango, Colorado, and the Center on Rural Innovation's Core Innovation Fund, which invests in phase 3 growth businesses located in rural opportunity zones across the country. Altogether, you can see how these assets and activities build upon each other to ultimately lead to the outcome of a thriving culture and community of scalable tech entrepreneurship, able to sustain and support the ideation, launch, and scaling of new ventures continuously. These ventures are receiving investment and hiring locally, and thus creating more jobs and wealth for the community. This is a progression modeled on our experience working with rural startup communities. In practice, it is important to recognize the uniqueness of each community and to understand the tactics and strategies they deploy will always look a little different. As a principle, we meet communities where they are when co-developing their tech-based economic development strategies and help them leverage their real assets to this end. In order to support this work, it is critical to understand that tech entrepreneurship doesn't happen overnight, and in order to best catalyze it, a community needs to develop a journey that is accessible for everyone. This means that any person in the community who had a startup or an idea for a startup knows where they can go to work on that idea, and that people who may not even yet have a startup idea or see themselves as entrepreneurs could find inspiration and support to develop an idea, build it out, and launch and grow a tech startup. The concept of an entrepreneur's journey has to be inclusive and accessible to all by design from the outset. To illustrate the journey for a local tech entrepreneur, here's a real-world example from a startup in Springfield, Vermont. Kara was an early childhood educator born and raised in rural Vermont. In her decade of working with children and their families, she developed a tech-enabled methodology to set kids up for success in school. She initially joined Springfield's Black River Innovation Campus incubator space as an attendee of their digital skills bootcamp. And through meeting and working with entrepreneurs in the area in the incubator space, decided to sign up for BRIC's actuator program, at the time an incubator. In this program, she entered a launch stage for her company. She conducted market research and beta testing and was connected to the resources she needed to create the foundations of her business, including mentors who became strategic advisors for her startup. Kara felt the program validated her business model and coached her to a point she was ready to hire a team and launch an MVP of her product. She now has a business operations manager, a digital marketing manager, and an employee working on video production for coursework. These are Vermont-based tech jobs with above regional median salaries. The team is now working with strategic advisors and leveraging other connections from the actuator program to secure their first angel investment and scale. Kara is still based at BRIC, and her presence serves as inspiration for aspiring entrepreneurs there. She's now a resource for the startup community that helped her idea become a business. It takes time to build out the offerings, programs, and resources for entrepreneurs at every step of their journey. In our work with rural communities, we see great examples every day of efforts to support entrepreneurs along this process. In the early phase, phase 1, we have Independence, Oregon, who won a Build to Scale award on their second time trying in 2020. The City of Independence, SEDCOR, and their local co-working space, the Indie Idea Hub, started doing the foundational work for a scalable tech entrepreneurship ecosystem, offering a startup weekend program through Techstars and working on ag tech innovation as a vertical focus by partnering with Ag Launch Accelerator. Up until this point, they've generally been more focused on Main Street businesses, but have been working on a strategy to move more into scalable tech startup creation and shift the mindset in their community into phase 2. An example at phase 2 is Platteville, Wisconsin's Idea Hub Accelerator, no relation. University of Wisconsin-Platteville won a Build to Scale award in 2020 and is putting the funding to use with the launch of their first ever accelerator program, an 8-week program designed to help startups from Southwest Wisconsin grow and scale. Their first cohort took place from June to August of 2021 with 12 promising companies. The program includes matching entrepreneurs with expert mentors and curriculum delivered by subject matter expert guest speakers. They plan to expand their efforts and see graduates of their program begin to raise capital soon. Once they do that, they would reach stage 3, where we see Cape Girardeau, Missouri's Codify, also a winner of Build to Scale back when it was known as the I6 Award in 2019. Codify opened in fall 2014 as the first co-working space and technology incubator in Cape Girardeau and the Southeast Missouri region, and soon began their first 50K competition to attract tech startups to the area. Codify has grown the co-working space to nearly 17,000 square feet with over 350 members and has supported 50 startups, which have generated over 180 jobs and investments of over $30 million. They offer startups access to tech talent through their in-house project shop and adult coding boot camps, and are even building the pipeline with youth coding programs. These examples stand to demonstrate that support looks different depending on where communities are in their startup community maturity, and that providing them with funding, technical assistance, and partnerships helps them to grow and expand what they can offer to local tech entrepreneurs. There's always more work to be done to grow a startup ecosystem, but with concerted efforts and a clear vision for what a local tech entrepreneur's journey will look like, the possibility of creating homegrown wealth and jobs through tech entrepreneurship becomes real. So finally, how do we support this work? To offer support for rural communities in your region that want to grow the number of tech startups they have locally, you can begin by determining which phase your region is in regarding tech entrepreneurship support, and encouraging leaders to connect and engage with local entrepreneurs to understand what supports their startups need. Help them build out the local tech entrepreneur's journey in whatever ways are possible within your agency. This may mean providing introductions to potential partners or funders, or ensuring they are aware of a federal funding opportunity relevant to their work, among many other options. Your support could also help to promote inclusive regional connectivity to offset geographic isolation, encourage collaboration, and engage nearby strategic partners. We find this often takes shape as rural communities operating as a spoke from a metro hub. If rural leaders need support in knowing where to look to build coalitions, you may need to support that strategic search. Also, keep in mind and accept that this will take generations, not quarters, and remind your communities you believe in the long view. Great tech startups don't just happen overnight, let alone the standing up of robust startup communities, and investment in the long term is key to keeping up momentum. Regarding how you might further apply this to your work, here are a few actionable next steps. Get familiar with the local tech entrepreneurs and their support systems in your region so that you can best meet them where they are. Learn about potential entrepreneurial support for your region. Stay up to date with EDA funding opportunities for entrepreneurship and innovation. Encourage regional collaboration and support local leaders in creating a culture of tech entrepreneurship through amplification and visibility of local entrepreneurs, funding for programmatic journeys for tech entrepreneurs from idea stage to scale, and creating mechanisms of connection among entrepreneurs, mentors, investors, and other supports. That's all we have time for today. We welcome your thoughts and feedback, as well as any updates as you apply this work within your regions. Here's our website and a contact email if you would like to contact us. If you have any additional questions, your economic development representative can direct you to other appropriate funding for your ecosystem. Thank you again for your time and dedication to supporting tech entrepreneurs and startups in rural America.